Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Ahmed Saltaji. I'm a registered investment advisor with Zaki Financial. It's my pleasure today to present to you saving for education, but with some Islamic considerations. So before you start saving, of course, pay off your debt, especially credit card debts, pay your own student debt, convert your mortgage to an Islamic loan, set up emergency fund, and please go back to our video about different ways of saving for more specific about emergency fund. Also start saving for your own retirement. And then of course, start saving for your children education. Now, some options are Islamic compatible, some of them are not. So that's what we're going to talk about, in details. Now, besides saving for education, you can minimize the cost of education through grants, which are usually need-based, and scholarship, which are merit-based. And you can use those two links to calculate how much you qualify for. Also, you can start with a community college or a state college where the cost is less and the scholarships are more. You can work while in school, unless you are aiming for like medical school and you have to, be a perfect grade, student. Sometimes it's hard to work during undergrad for that. And also take advantage of federal work study. It's very important to exhaust those options, because if you end up needing a student loan, at least in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you've exhausted all the possibilities and then it becomes a necessity to you. Also, when you file your taxes, your parent file their taxes, make sure that they apply for those tax credits. They have to consult with their tax advisor, and you can pause here and read about the specific about those two, credits. When should you start saving for your children's education? College is expensive, growing at a faster pace than inflation, so you should start investing as soon as possible. At birth is even better. But if you even started late, that still save you some money and some tax breaks. How much do you save? The rule of thumb, 10,000 per year per child since birth. But you can calculate exactly how much you need by going to one of those two tools, one at finra.org and one at savingforcollege.com. And remember, as a Muslim, you really want to save as much as possible, because you don't want to take any loans unless you have to. Now, saving does negatively impact financial aid, especially if the accounts are in the name of the child. But if it's in the name of the parents, then the impact is less, like 5.64%. So remember that. And here are the different ways to save. Now, red usually are not allowed as an Islamic option. The green are usually, allowed as Islamic option if you invest in Islamic compatible investment. And the one I left at the end we'll discuss, in detail. Now, saving account, the money is readily available, it earns interest, it's FDIC insured, but the yield is usually very low. And of course, interest is prohibited in Islam. You can invest in your name. The beauty is, you have control. You can use the money for education and different type, of purposes. But the money is taxable, the dividends and the gain when you sell the investment, and of course you have investment risk. Now, the difference is like, let's say you're saving 10,000 per year since birth, and after 18 years, you put in 180. If your investment is growing about 8%, usually if it's taxable, the account is going to be worth like maybe 320. And if it's non-taxable, like 529, it's going to be worth around 570. So here's the difference. Of course, you have to think of other factors, like your control, the way you're able to use the money for something else, and of course, the Islamic compatibility. That's important. You can also invest the money in the name of the child in a custodial account. This one, at the age of majority, you lose control over the money, and the child can use the money in anything they want. We usually really do not recommend this, but it's an option. Or you can invest in it, Islamic education, and then roll it over later to a 529 plan, for example. Saving bonds, they're safe because they're bonds guaranteed by the government, but of course they pay interest and they have income limitation and a lot of complications. I don't recommend them, plus they're prohibited in Islam. Um, Educational saving accounts. This is just like investment in the name of the child, but in an educational account. There are Islamic options. Parent maintains control until the age of majority, and it's tax deferred. The withdrawal is tax free if it's spent on education. But it has $2,000 limit per year, and there's also income limitation. But for people who are like, middle class, sometimes that's all they can save, and their income is below that limit. So it comes as a good option. 529 plans, very, you know, flexible plan. It comes in prepaid tuition plan and college saving plans. The prepaid one, if you live in a big state, you have, a big state college, and you think your child most likely is going to end up in that college, um, you can pay the tuition now instead of paying 10 years later. You lock in the tuition price now because 10 years later it might be double. And, there's no haram here. You're just, they're selling you the cost of tuition now. So that's a good option. And it has the same limit per year as far as gift tax. And we'll explain that a little bit later. 529 college saving plans set by every state, and because states are usually cautious, they only allow like big firms to run those programs, like Schwab, Fidelity, and all of that. Um, and those, they cater to the majority, so, they don't have an Islamic option. They have maybe equity fund, but that equity fund has, Islamic compatible stocks and non-Islamic compatible stocks. So unfortunately, as far as I know, there's no Islamic option for 529 plan right now. Um, but we're going to talk about it. It's very flexible plan. You can deposit up to $15,000 per year per child without incurring any gift tax. You and your wife, you can do double that. You can even pay 5 years in advance. So you and your wife deposit $150,000 right away in the 529. Let it grow, and you don't incur even gift tax for 5 years if you don't, gift your children anything else. And the limits really, there's no limit on income, and the limit on how much you contribute is really high. And you can change the beneficiary without a problem. And you can pay the expenses to tuition, fees, room and board, required equipment, but not transportation or health insurance. You can even pay $10,000 for K-12 tuition expenses. You can pay $10,000 towards student loan. And if you have money left over for one child, you can roll it over to another family member. Which college you can, pick? Almost 6,000 colleges in the US qualify, and 400 foreign colleges too. You could go to savingforcollege.com and see which one they qualify, but almost, most recognized colleges are part of this. And as we said, if you have money left over, you can roll it back to yourself if you're going to study more, or you can leave it for that child to use it for graduate school, or roll it over to another family member. And qualifying family member could be a sibling, could be, I think, first cousin is included. So, it's really not that strict. You can, if the child is disabled, you can roll it into an ABLE account. Um, and and of course, if you did not plan it well and you have money left over, in certain circumstances, like, let's say you saved the child, but he got a full ride scholarship, or the child dies or become disabled, he couldn't study anymore, then you can take the money out without penalty, without the 10% penalty, but of course you pay uh, uh, income tax on it. You can even optimize your 529 plan. Start early, and calculate how much you need and start paying from now. There's even a chance to pick which plan you want, because honestly, you don't have to pick up your state plan. I mean, if you pick up your own state plan, you probably get some tax credit, but you can compare all plans and pick up a one with low fee. FINRA has expense analyzer. You can go and check. Um, and you can even have the grandchildren, the grandparents, and other family members gift your child 529 plan by going through Gift for College or the Leaf gift card program, or even sign up for You Promise and use your cash back from credit card spending as money saved in the 529 plan account. But 529 has some, drawbacks. It does affect the financial aid a little bit. It does have some investment risk, and sometimes the market is down when you need the money to spend for tuition. um, so kind of always think ahead, but sometimes if you have to spend it for education, you have to withdraw the money at the time of the tuition is due. Um, but unfortunately, the biggest negative here is so far we don't have an Islamic option. But I mean, there is a middle ground option. If you want to save more than $2,000, we said if you want to save less, 2,000 or less, you can do an educational saving account. But if you want to save up to $6,000, you can go the Roth IRA option. Now, the child has to be working like as a teenager and earning money, or if you can hire him, if you have a business or some money that you're generating from a self-employment business, hire children, give them some money, and have them put that money in a Roth IRA. At their level, the tax is very low, and the money grows tax-free, and then they can withdraw the principal, the basis of their donations for education. And if whatever money left over will be for them in the future for their own retirement. IRA is a little bit more complicated than the Roth IRA, and they don't even need the tax deductibility at that time because I said their tax bracket is very low. So generally is really not recommended. Um, Life insurance, there are some options. Life insurance that you can, put money that grows tax deferred, and you can use it for education and some other things, but is not compatible with Islamic, uh, uh, principles. Of, according to the majority of the scholars, there are a few dissenting scholars that allow insurance, but I'm not going to discuss that because I'm not a scholar. We go now to home equity loan. Um, well, if it's a mortgage, it's haram. Of course, some people do mortgage, they consider that necessity. The good thing is we have Islamic options. So, if you don't want to take student loan, you can maybe have a home equity loan Islamic way on your house and pay for children education. Sometimes it's risky if you lose your equity in the house, and jeopardize, the stability of the family. So just weigh all of your options and consult financial people before you take such a decision and make some calculations. Uh, Now, if you are well-to-do, you can also start a trust for the child. The beauty of a trust is, if it's set up right, it goes out of your estate. And not only that, you can set up some limitation. So, we said like the saving accounts, educational saving accounts, and the custodial accounts, the children have ownership of the account when they become adults, and you don't have any control what they do with the money. Now, in trust account, you can put in the trust exactly how the money is going to be spent and what are the conditions. So, God forbids your child decided to leave education and become wasteful, then they're not allowed to waste the money. Finally, we're going to talk a little bit about college loans. Now, there are two types of college loans, federal and private. Federal have fixed amount of interest. Usually you don't have to start paying until 6 months after graduation, but the interest will start, from the time they pay the money to college, except if you have, financial needs. Sometimes they give you a subsidized um, uh, loans, which means the government covers the interest until 6 months after graduation. Private loans, they have higher interest, sometimes variable interest, they have fees, and you have to start paying early. Sometimes you cannot wait that long before you start paying. Um, Now here's the AMJA ruling on student loans. AMJA is the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America. Very trustworthy, scholars. I'm proud to have one of them as the, supervising uh, scholar of Zaki Financial, Dr. Amin Al-Qudat. Uh, Now, as we mentioned before, they do recommend that you go through all the options because interest is haram. Try to get scholarships, grants, work study, or even subsidized loans because that give you enough time, or some time without interest. Try all those options, but after you exhaust all of them, then you need to be educated. Muslims need professionals and they need experts. So in that case, it's considered an urgent necessity that removes the sin, even though the ruling of impermissibility remains. So it's something haram that you have to do because of this, situation. So how to make a decision? If you cannot save anything, just wait for financial aid, um, and maybe apply for a student loan, if you have to. If you can save 2,000 a year, start with educational saving account. 6,000 a year, and the child has some earned income or even unearned income. They have income. You can then, start a Roth IRA. 529 plan, there's no Islamic option. You can also do an investment account in the name of the parents better than in the name of the children. And finally, student loans are, as we said, only in a case of necessity. So this is a very quick summary. And if you find a mistake, please give me feedback. And if you like the presentation, please click like, please share, and we appreciate that you also watch our other videos and check our website at zakifinancial.com. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.